Welcome back to the Expansion Pack podcast, where we download this week's content and bring it to you. Once again, I am your host, Danzel, aka Black Ice 8, joined by my amazing co-host, starting off with Manny, aka Goop Master Flex. Say what's up to the people, bro.
You already know what's up. Stay gooping. We hooping.
All right. Hooping and gooping. All right. Gooping and hooping, is it? Either way.
Hoopty scoopty, whoopty whoop.
Next up, we got my guy Chris, aka May 25th. How you doing, my guy?
Same old. We out here doing
all right. Well, we're on our 11th episode this week. It's still in the new year. We don't really have too much news per se to talk about. Definitely a lot of little rumors here and there. But, we still got our topics we want to get into for this week. But of course, it wouldn't be an episode of the Expansion Pack podcast without Chris's icebreakers. So take it away, man.
All right, y'all. So today's question revolves around the fact that, live service games are becoming more and more popular. I actually think it's a thing that's trending in the right direction for a lot of games. But with that being said, we see it every year kind of like rising. What games do you kind of think, or what genre of games do you think should implement this next? What do you think could best utilize that structure to move forward?
Okay.
Okay. Well, my bad.
Go ahead.
So, personally, I feel like, we get these games every year, and it's not getting to a point where it's knowing how to drop $70 for potentially the same game. Really, is sports games nowadays, because essentially it's just like another roster update. They may tweak a couple things, but in reality, like what we've seen with the last couple years, like 2K had like the same part for 2 years and pretty much pay for the same game with just like maybe different sliders for these builds that we have to create. Like it's just getting to a point where it's just like, how come they can't just like release a service? They got the city going, create these like little seasons for the city. And then, maybe like a little battle pass type of thing, a hoop pass, call it. And like, have these things, these little challenges to get your guys a pass overall up, get this new limited clothes. And so they could keep that for next year because, it's getting to a point in 2K. It's like, you get the new game, you got to drop another $50 on VC, you got to drop another, maybe another couple dollars for clothes and stuff like that. When it's like, why can't the clothes just carry over to the next year and stuff like that? But I would say maybe sports games should take into consideration of the online service type of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can all agree with that. I think we definitely talked about it, a couple of weeks past when we had our episode about 2K and the city. I would love to see games as a service model for 2K and specifically Madden for me. A lot of people bill Madden as really just a roster update. And a lot of times it does feel that way. I think it would benefit the teams too to really just get a chance to push out one game, let's say maybe at the beginning of the generation or maybe every 4 or 3 years or whatever, there's a new base game. And then they just have those teams focus on iterating in those modes, whether it's franchise mode or ultimate team or whatever it is. And then just kind of keep pushing out new content as time goes on. I think that would be much better. And people would feel a lot better about it than, I got to go buy Madden 21 now. And then I got to go buy Madden 22. And like, I think people are kind of tired of that model. So, yeah, I would love to see that for sure.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, man. It's funny you guys bring up the sports thing because, like, I also very much agree with the both of you guys, especially in terms of, like, 2K and stuff like that. It it would be awesome in a perfect world where like the city became like a hub kind of thing, and you had multiple studios kind of like contributing to it every year kind of thing. Like if they took the model of COD and they had in a perfect world EA and 2K working side by side, and then every year they kind of contribute to the city and give their little updates, and I think that would be perfect. But aside from that, aside from that, if I had to give my own option, for me, it probably would be something like a Pokemon game or something, because I just think that would be so different. I think about Genshin Impact, and I think about how they kind of do their daily login stuff. A lot of RPGs are good for that stuff, but I think, again, Pokemon's really lacking behind in terms of what a modern RPG kind of should be. But like if, egg hatching, for example, was such a big thing in Pokemon. Like you have people on Twitch literally doing 6-hour streams just hatching egg after egg after egg with mad people in their chat. So like it's a thing that people are into, right? And it's like, how dope would it be if I could log on every day in a game like Pokemon and they had cool things like I don't know, you can get like a rare chance at a really good egg at a really rare mon that you can't get in the wild by catching it. That's cool. Or like I get to the end of the, I don't know what you want to call it, the Poke Pass. I get to the end of that, and now I get access to this whole new area with all these new mons that are really strong that I've never gotten a chance to get before. Like there's so many different things that they can do with this game to make it better, besides party chat. That just, oh my god, like I really wish they would take the bandage off of Pokemon stuff, but that might take up a whole nother podcast episode if I really get deep on that. Oh man. Yeah.
All right. Well, as much as I would also piggyback on everything that both of you said as far as sports games and Pokemon, my specific game that I would like to see turn into a games as a service model would be Halo. I think, it sounds like that if the rumors are true, that might be what we're getting with Halo Infinite. But I would really, really love to see Halo go, down the road of Call of Duty Warzone or an Apex Legends, where you have the base game, and there's obviously a season pass with different pieces of armor and different skins or whatever for your Spartan, and that just basically lives on for forever, and you just keep reiterating on the game, and this essentially becomes the last Halo, right? Hence the moniker for Halo Infinite. And then hopefully they also push that to the story as well, where I don't know, every 6 months or so we get some new part of Master Chief's story to continue to build on, so that we don't have to worry about a Halo 6 or 7 or 8 or any of that type of stuff. Like I think that the games as a service model can really do wonders for storytelling, and not just multiplayer side of things. So yeah, I would love to see them get into.
Same. Can't wait for Halo Infinite.
See, and I think even in that game too, like if they had a battle pass and they had constant new weapons coming into the game, that'd be cool, man. Because I'm not too deep on Halo like you guys are, definitely, but like I think that'd be a really cool thing, because I don't remember the weapon pool being like that vastly large kind of thing. Like, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's pretty standard. I don't know. It's like,
yeah,
it can be, but like you just end up using the same weapons in the end sometimes.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, it would be cool though, like if they had a battle pass thing, like how they do in COD, where you're gonna get at least 2 new weapons, maybe a third hidden one that you have to like unlock by doing some multiplayer challenges or whatever every single season, and then something like Halo. That's cool, man. That's mad cool.
They would definitely have to completely change the meta of the game. So like the way Halo is set up, it's pretty much just BRs and assault rifle. The assault rifle is the iconic Halo weapon, right? So to see anything other than that, I don't know. That's weird. I couldn't think of it from a weapon standpoint, like how they would add new weapons into the battle pass. But I think that could be a thing that would change Halo up enough to like, kind of pull it into 2021 and have people be like, oh, like, okay, this is not exactly what we expected. Like basically take the arena shooter and turn it on its head. Like if they can do that,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
it'd be great. I mean, Manny, did you play with us this past week? When we
Yeah,
played
when we
Halo?
played Big Team.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
got into a little bit of big team battle. I hadn't played Halo in quite some time, and while I still feel like some of the controls need to get ratcheted up a little bit to to more modern times, because I can't like have my bumper jumper. So basically, for those of you who play Halo, I'm sure you know what bumper jumper is, and basically it's using the left bumper to jump, so you never have to take your thumbs off the sticks. So in Halo 5, and I guess also in the Master Chief Collection, you can't have bumper jumper on, but keep your sprint tied to your left stick. So like you have to hit A to sprint, and that just feels disgusting to me. I hate it.
Why is that
I
even a thing?
hate
Holmes
it.
said it feels disgusting.
It's 2020. Oh, it's
yeah.
actually 2021. I feel like it should have button mapping features. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like it should be built into the game. Although I suppose it's built into the Xbox, so I guess maybe I could like mess
Oh
around with
yeah, I
that.
forgot. But then that's annoying.
That's
You have to
gotta be
switch
in
the
the new one though,
controls and
dude. It's
everything.
gotta be an
I,
Infinite. There's no way that you put that in there.
but here's the thing, right? We were playing Halo 5. Halo 5, I mean, granted, it's been like a good 5 years or so, but like the concept of the sprint button being on your left stick, it's not new, right? Like that's a 10-year-old idea. That was back in Call of Duty 4, maybe even before that. So for them to have come all the way out with Halo 5 and it not be there, like makes me they need to get it right with Infinite. That's all I'm gonna say. I need to feel so fucking fluid when I play that game. Like
Yeah, no, I feel you.
yeah, like the
But that's what
fluidity I
feel
feel
you.
from when I play like Destiny or Call of Duty, like I need that in my Halo.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey man, that's why I play
agree.
Claw.
Oh my god, I can't do that claw shit. That shit is weird, yo. Ugh.
What do you mean? It's mad simple. You just bam, you good. Oh wait, bam, you good.
Yo, what was the name of that? Or I don't even know which COD it was, but the one that like had like the wall climbing or wall scaling
Advanced
and all
Warfare.
that. Yeah,
No, he's talking about more of Black Ops 3 because Black Ops 3 could wall run.
yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wouldn't Halo feel similar to that in a sense if they really got some of this other multiplayer stuff more up to par?
I don't think it would be like that.
Mhm.
Halo
No.
is more of like that traditional, just like
Yeah,
just traditional arena game. No, like double
I feel like
jumps.
the
They might
mobility
have
would
like
be
that
better,
that
though,
little
no?
slide thing that they had in Halo 5, but
yeah.
I don't think they'll like raw run, no jetpacks or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting, but I don't foresee that being like their avenue. Like I can see that because they already have jetpacks in Halo 5, but all it does is just kind of like thrust you forward a little bit, and you can freeze in the air when you aim in. But yeah, I don't know if I could see them doing the way that like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare or even Black Ops. You said 3, was it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if they would do that. Shit, that's not even something I was even thinking about until just now. That'd be really weird. I feel like if
Yeah.
they had that level of mobility, we probably would have seen it off rip from that Halo Infinite reveal previously.
Yeah.
Like I think they would have showed him running on the walls and all that stuff. But then again, it could be something they implement into the game now that they've gone back. They haven't really gone back to the drawing board. They've kind of just extended it out. So I don't know if those types of features would get added. I think it would be interesting. I think the community might be pissed though if they started adding.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
I kind of like the classic slow pace of Halo. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like used to like not sprinting when I play Halo ever since I played like the Master Chief Collection. But sprinting is nice, of course, though.
Yeah, they could dial
Halo's
it
more
up
of, like,
just
a
a
slow-paced-
little bit, like dial up
Yeah.
the pace of the game just a little bit with sprinting and a couple other things like that. I think it would benefit significantly. It doesn't have to be full on like crazy. Doesn't have to be Titanfall, right? Like Titanfall is
Yeah.
like sometimes that game could be a bit dry. Love that game though, but sometimes it can be a bit jarring. I don't think Halo needs to become that, but it does need to kind of raise the bar a little bit. So,
Definitely.
all right. Well, what else do we got here? Chris, I think you got the next section here. What's going on?
Alrighty. Well, we recently have received a pretty beefy trailer. Well, not even really a trailer, but like a gameplay chunk for this very anticipated game that we're all very excited for, The Medium. It was pushed back, as we all know, a lot of games were pushed back, but 2021 we're going to be trying to be positive. And yeah, we took a second to sit down and actually look at the gameplay. And on first impression, I got to say my word that I keep coming back to when I try to describe it is just different. It's different. Different, but like it gives you reminiscence of games like Silent Hill and stuff like that. Because you kind of get the whole, puzzle aspect. Actually, I think the game's probably going to lean pretty heavily on the puzzle aspect. But then, they got the whole split screen thing going on, which is interesting because I've never seen that before. It's different. I don't know. But my excitement is still very, very high. I like what I saw. It's weird though at first, and I think it was my computer. My computer might have been tripping, but like started watching the trailer and I'm like, what's going on with these graphics? Am I bugging? Like these things look weird. And like maybe like 2 minutes into it, I'm like, did the graphics get better in the trailer? Like, or am I bugging? And then I'm watching the rest of the trailer and then I realized, all right, no. I think my computer was just lagging or something was weird or something like that. But I don't really think the graphics were really like an issue or anything like that. It just, yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see more. I want to know more about Sadness. Sadness, I don't know why, was very interesting to me. Like that, I don't know why it was so interesting, but I really just want to know more about that character and if it's more of a thing like, is the sadness an inner representation of her sadness? Is it like some horror version of Inside Out that we're seeing? Like what is going on? Because Inside Out had the little emotions that were all personified, and sadness is sadness. And sadness doesn't remember anything. I need to know more. I just need to know more. I need to see more, and I can't wait to play.
Yeah, for sure. I was super excited to see that trailer myself. I would actually recommend Chris maybe watching that on your TV because it's in 4K. I don't know if your laptop has 4K or anything.
But, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I had the setting on my YouTube when I was watching it, but it should have been able to play it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that graphical hiccup, so I'm wondering if it is just your computer. But from what I saw, like I ended up watching on my TV. Beautiful game. Like the lighting in the game is pretty amazing. Like I don't think it's going for like the most graphically intense game of all time or anything, but I think the art design that they have going for it, the tone that they're setting with it, like we've all talked about multiple times, like you definitely get like a Silent Hill vibe from the game, and I think they do a great job of trying to keep the immersion in there. Some of the lighting aspects of the game, especially when you're in the I guess I don't know what the term would be,
the upside down.
Yeah, we'll call it the upside down because that's basically what it looks like, right? Like when she's in the upside down, like the tone is just so different, and that's the cool thing about having that split screen too, is like you see the contrast, and obviously they're using the split screen in really interesting ways where, in the trailer specifically, we saw that the main character needed to go up a set of stairs. She could see the stairs in the upside down, but she, in the real world, the stairs were broken down. So she had to find a different way around. And come to find out, what she ended up doing was she went up an elevator and kind of had to have an out of body experience in the upside down to then get the elevator working so that she can, proceed through the level. And I feel like the fact that they had those things going in so many different angles, like so many different ways, it was kind of like mind blowing to watch, and it kind of opens your mind up to what else they could do. I'm definitely really excited to see. So, yeah.
Definitely. Give me that like classic horror game vibes. It got the weird camera angles, walking around, these little puzzles you got to do. And then like got to find the pieces to the puzzles. Like for example, in the gameplay when she had the bolt cutter just to open the gate or whatever. It's like, just stuff like that where it's like, I know it's going to be like that kind of like that old classic Resident Evil where you got to find stuff just to complete puzzles, and like definitely excited. It's dope features like the out of body experience where you have to complete puzzles, like you said. So, it's like a different take to what a horror game can be. And it's, like it just looks like that psychological thriller type of thing.
Sir, yes, sir. So
Yeah.
obviously we're all pretty excited about it, but you know, what one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit, do you guys think the game looks next gen?
Well, um, I do like the way the direction's going. Nowadays it's like you can't really say with the graphics. The graphics look solid in my opinion. Nowadays with next gen capabilities that you're able to do with the new GPUs, CPUs, and all that kind of stuff is what I tend not to look for is not the graphics, but the stuff that's happening around. Because it's hard to like really make the graphics look really realistic nowadays. With since like it was looking pretty good last gen, so like would be too much of an upgrade. But what's going on around it and to keep like the immersion of the game to make you feel like you're in the world. I do like the way that the medium did show. The game is running with the little two screens. Like when you think about it, like two different worlds at the same time, which is crazy. People probably don't really appreciate it as much sometimes, but like the fact that it is running those two worlds like probably does take a toll, which is why it's like a true next gen game only.
Mhm.
As well as probably running with the ray tracing settings as well with the shadows and the dynamics of that aspect as well.
Yeah, word. Chris, what about you? What do you think? Next gen?
At first, when I first was looking at it, I was like, I like the graphics, but like Goop said, I didn't think they were anything that were like outstanding. But then, in its defense, I truly don't believe I've seen anything next gen yet that stood out graphically to me yet, except for like maybe the Bright Memory game or Bright Memory Infinite, I think it's called,
Mhm.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
you got it.
That one, that one looked sharp, bro. Like sharp. Like everything in that trailer looked like they carved it with like a scalpel, man. It looked sharp. And so in its defense, I think a lot of the other games are still going to be catching up. I like we said before in another pod. Um, to me, this is the year where they truly start to show what the consoles can do. But what I do think I did notice in the trailer, two things that looked kind of really cool was one, the thing when she kind of got the energy and she ran through the little cave and the bugs were everywhere and they were getting, I guess, burned out by the energy.
Mhm.
That looked kind of like really cool. And then there's another little subtle thing that they did when they do the out of body experience thing and she had to go do whatever she did. You can kind of like notice the I guess is a projection. It starts to wither a little bit like the longer
Yep.
you're out of the body.
Yep.
And like so that was kind of cool too. So there's these little tiny touches that they definitely added to it that are cool. But I also got to say too, and this is just a thing in general, not just the medium. I think even though graphically maybe we may be at a cap and it's more of a frames thing more days, but the mannerisms and the facial movements in a lot of these video games is starting to get much better. Because I can even say that with Cyberpunk, even with all of its bugs, it's one of the best games I've seen to date that has the mouths moving right and the people moving in a really fluid, realistic kind of way to make you feel like you're in the world for a second, especially when you're in the first person view. You know what I mean? Like it's just these games are starting to get that really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And
Bro, wait till you get a Series X and see that shit in 60 frames, bro. Yeah, it gets
yeah.
even better. I agree with
Like
you.
even seeing Cyberpunk and like PC, like when they showcase like Digital Foundry when they showcase the PC and how it looked, like it just looks amazing. And obviously with the console users, we only got the current gen version, but just seeing the future of like what we can do with these hardware that we got nowadays with the new like RTX 30 series and like the new Series X, and PlayStation 5 cards that they use. Like it's just this is going to happen. So what I'm saying, we're gonna get these bangers.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I agree.
oh.
For me, I would definitely say the game um looks to be next gen, not necessarily from a graphical standpoint, because I do agree with a lot of what you guys said. Um, I think there's only so much further you can go with the actual graphical fidelity. I think the animations is one thing that needs to get upgraded, like you mentioned, Chris. Like movement, facial expressions, things like that. Those will definitely get improved. But for this game in particular, from what I can tell, looks like they're really leveraging the SSD, for the ability to be able to run those two worlds simultaneously in real time. Um, and then also the ray tracing stuff, right? Like I mentioned beforehand, the lighting kind of really lends itself to more of the immersion in the game. And those are the two hardware points that I can point to and say that helps it look a lot more, or create a more next gen experience. But also the gameplay loop, the idea that you have two worlds running simultaneously. This character exists in both because she is a medium. Some of the gameplay elements that it can create, I think, are things that we've never seen before, and by virtue would make it next gen. Um, you know, I think we talked about this before, but a scenario that I think I could see is, you know, uh, the what's the character's name again? Is it Marianne? Was that it?
Yeah.
Marianne,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Marianne in the real world is presented with some threat where she's in immediate danger, and therefore she has to switch over to like her projected self. What's the term again? The out of body experience.
Yeah.
So she has to go and do an out of body experience, and now her body is just standing there, vulnerable. And in the split screen on the top side, you can see that there's some creature or something like barreling its way towards Marianne, and you in the upside down have to hurry up and fix whatever puzzle or do whatever thing it is that you have to do, so that your real world self doesn't die from this monster. I feel like it can create like a really high level of tension, a really insane like atmosphere in a game that I don't think we've ever seen before. So I'm excited to see what Bloober Team can do with all these different mechanics and how they can put it together. Like, we got a 14-minute trailer, definitely pretty meaty, but I feel like they are only scratching the surface of what they have planned with that game. So I'm really excited to see
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I am curious to see if there's any like melee combat or anything like that they more like involved in the game. It doesn't really seem like the game's focused too much on that kind of stuff, but I do want to see if they maybe use it for like quick action scenes or something like that at some points. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
like they might do something like that more so than like giving you a whole inventory of weapons and stuff to like slot on your character like a Resident Evil per se.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm definitely curious about the combat stuff. I mean, we'll have to see, because it definitely doesn't look like there's any guns in there, like we talked about. Yeah, I don't know. It could mainly just be about puzzles and the storytelling aspects. So
maybe
see,
it's
man.
more like an Outlast, because Outlast didn't really have like weapons and stuff like that either, right? Like it's more
True.
about running around and staying alive and all that stuff. So maybe it's more.
Very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. January 28th.
Yeah, man.
All right. So moving on to the next one here. Manny, what do you got for us?
Yeah. I guess you could say we went from the medium to the large, because what we got here.
Pause.
What you guys got to do with the pause, man?
Oh, man.
But we finally got some Nintendo news. Look at that. We out here talking about Nintendo not doing anything, and they actually finally did something for the last week, I guess. Starting off with buying next level games or acquiring it so that they can actually have some, good first party games. Hashtag Luigi's Mansion 4.
It's not a question of good. It's a question of new. We need something new.
Yeah, some new.
Well, we're hoping for a new IP to come from next level games, because we tied with new the same games they put out. Because Luigi's Mansion is nice enough, but we want more. You know what I'm saying? We tired of the same game. But maybe they acquired this for the new hardware that they got with the leaks of the new Project Alula. Oh, I can't even say that right. With the potentially the Nintendo Switch Pro, or we know got leaked around this week. Supposedly it's using the same chip that is used for the Nintendo Switch Lite in the 2019 model, but it's pushed to higher clock speeds so that the firmware could probably put out better performancing. Also talking about a Realtek chip, which advertises itself to be a 4K UHD. Probably potentially going to be used for the dock only because we're probably not going to have a 4K Nintendo Switch, the handheld model version, because that would be. I mean, it would be crazy if they did support that, but
they got the money for it.
They do.
They don't have the engineering for it though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that'll happen, but they did say that the physical hardware itself with the Switch will have a OLED screen, which will be a nice little upgrade. Hopefully it will actually happen. It's just all rumors from what we know, but with the whole new system itself will have better cooling, so that it can actually output this horsepower to upgrade the game's horsepowers and resolution and stuff like that, which would be a good plus. We know, like, for example, games like Rocket League run at like 720 on like the handheld device itself. So if it could like output like 1080p with a better battery life to play on these handheld devices will be good. We know also Nintendo has also asked game developers to make their existing games into 4K ready for potentially this new system hardware. We know that there has been multiple like reports that Nintendo might have like a new hardware early 2021. So maybe this could be it. People reportedly saying that maybe March 3rd might be the day they either announce it, or who knows, it might be a surprise drop. But my guess is they're probably gonna wait. We know COVID hits, so they're gonna give enough time for people to be prepared. I think what they might do is like a Nintendo Direct, maybe around March 3rd, like that time of that 4th birthday for the Nintendo Switch console. And, hopefully announce some games with the new Switch hardware, right? Maybe Next Level has something for us. Maybe. Or we might see a new Smash Fighter.
Oh God,
that's what we're gonna get.
I think the news of a 4K Switch, definitely a big deal. Definitely something that a lot of people are interested in, and everything that rumor or leak seems to talk about makes a lot of sense, right? 4K visuals on specifically while docked, an OLED screen, which would make a lot of sense for a lot of Nintendo's games because it means brighter colors, more pop, better cooling. If you're gonna have a better CPU, a better GPU built into it, so all those things make a lot of sense. And at a high level, I think they're pretty exciting, but we need the games, man. We need the new games. Nintendo, where are the games?
Will we play Animal Crossing in 4K?
Where's Metroid? Where's Metroid?
Listen.
Facts.
3 things, y'all. 3 things. Only 3 things would make me care about this thing. 3. First thing. It needs to be better than my phone. That's number 1. Actually, no, that's number 2. Number 1, can I get some goddamn party chat? That's number 1. That's number 1. I had to fix myself. I said it too early. Number 2 is it has to be better than my phone. Number 3, we need at least 3 brand new IPs. 3. You know how crazy it is that, like, I remember, what was it? I think last year, I want to say, Game Freak just for the first time released their second IP ever. Like, they just been riding on Pokemon for, like, ever. And I think they came out with that town game for the Switch. And I just thought about that, and I'm like, man, they really just been chilling. Like I don't, what? Like the Pokemon, not the Pokemon company, but Game Freak itself, like they're pretty big. Like I was like, wow, I can't believe they only tried to tackle one IP this entire time. And it's something as, I don't want to say Pokemon is small because the marketing side of Pokemon is like gigantic, but like the actual games themselves, they're not anything that crazy, and I love them, but they're not. Come on, we're not going to sit here and say that you got to take as much time and put as much effort into like building, say, a new map for fucking Call of Duty as building a Pokemon game. It's not the same, right? So it's I don't know. I thought that was very strange, but very interesting at the same time. But it just kind of like just lends to the point. It's just like I cannot believe that these guys kind of like just chill like they do. And another thing. One of those 3 IPs For the love of God, please, Nintendo, give adults one game, just one game, to say, okay, this game is actually, it ain't really for the kids. It's just one, just one. I don't think that's gonna hurt anybody. I don't think that's bad. I think a lot of their marketing clearly goes towards kids. You got Splatoon, you got ARMS, you have the Pokemon, and you even got the Pokemon Let's Go's, you got the Marios. All these games are very bright, vibrant, and colorful, and they're to me, they cater to the younger audience, and they also cater to nostalgia, right? So it's like they need to one game, one that's just like, oh shit, no shit. You find out you be shooting some bullets on the Switch, because I never feel like there's any games on the Switch that kind of make me feel like that, you know, dude. Like,
I think Metroid should be that game. It should
Agreed.
be.
Agreed.
Like, even if it's just that one game, right? Like, I know that they made a rated M version of it on the Wii, right? The Metroid Other M, I think it was called.
Probably.
Yeah, like,
but
why can't we get something like that, bro? Just like
just one.
Yeah, that's it. Just one.
Yeah.
Also, they partner with Platinum Games a lot, and Platinum Games, I mean, they make Bayonetta. Bayonetta 2 or 3 was exclusive to Nintendo systems, so like,
yeah, 2.
Forgot about that. Wow.
But where didn't they like announce a third Bayonetta? Like, where that at too?
Yeah,
Like,
they did, yeah. Again, in part, I think that's the one that's supposed to be exclusive. So in partnership with Nintendo, I actually think Platinum Games should just get acquired by them. Either them or Microsoft need to acquire Platinum Games and just like let them run wild, because some of the game ideas they have are amazing. Bayonetta is highly underrated. That game is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I remember that game too.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, Nintendo, good old Nintendo.
Get y'all shit together, y'all. God damn. Jesus.
Get hardware news before you get game news, you know what I'm saying?
That's exactly how I feel. I don't want to hear about no video games with them unless they're talking about new games for some dope ass hardware. But it starts with the hardware and then dope games, and then you can come sit at my table, Nintendo. Until then, y'all stay y'all asses outside the store. I am flipping the sign around. Shop is closed, y'all. Shop is closed.
Well, hopefully with this, news with the Nintendo Switch Pro, whenever they do their Nintendo Direct to showcase them console, hopefully there will be some new IPs, or actually tell us a release date for that new Breath of the Wild 2, or maybe a Metroid release date finally. So
they got to start giving people more than like 2 games to feel like super excited about on their thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's not good, man.
Yeah. They have a lot of third-party stuff, and like, yeah, it's great. Like, I feel like the Nintendo Directs, they get a lot of praise because they like show off all these third-party games that are coming out, whatever. And yeah, it's impressive that it's coming to the Switch, right? Like, it's a smaller console. Getting a lot of like independent studios like to hop on your system definitely helps and validates it a bit. And it's nice to have it in a portable fashion. But when all those games are still coming out on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, like, how are you actually incentivizing people to have your system, right? Like, I don't know. Like, again, I look at the Switch, we've talked about this before, but I look at the Switch as a supplementary system, right? Most people have an Xbox or a PlayStation or both and have a Switch, right? There aren't too many people I know, with the exception of like a handful of diehards or like kids who have the Nintendo Switch as their primary like sole system. So to really sit there and push out like, oh, we have this third party like port of Doom that's like a freaking 4-year-old game or whatever. Like, I need more, Nintendo. I need more.
I was gonna say, even so, it's like these games can't even handle like some of these third party games. Like, I remember we're talking about like the games like Control has to be streamed into the Switch, and it's like, I don't want to have to stream a game to my Switch, especially if I'm like, it's a handheld console, and if I want to take it to go, like, you're not going to be in it everywhere. So,
do you think that's actually a good point though, man? You just brought that up. Do you think, and I haven't seen this in any of the leaks so far, but do you think they would put like a 5G chip into a Switch and like, that would actually be huge, right? Like, then
it would be.
It would need a big battery though, then too, on top of it, no?
I mean, Think about
Well,
the
we're
battery in your
expecting
phone.
better battery
Yeah.
life with the Switch
Again,
Pro.
it needs
so-
to be better than my phone. So you're making sense. You're making sense. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead now.
So I mean, if that's a thing that we could get, that actually would be huge. See that right there would be a game changer for the Switch, because now
Mhm.
you're opening up the possibility for doing game streaming. You know, we talked about how big Microsoft is on pushing Game Pass every which way. Imagine if they partnered with Nintendo partnered with Microsoft on this and really pushed Game Pass on the Switch as like an app that you can get, and now you have a Switch Pro that's 5G that can stream. You know, so you're using XCloud on the Switch. That could be huge.
That would be
Yo,
dope.
question, because now that y'all bring up 5G, how hard would it be for them to after they implement 5G, create something called like a switch calls or something like that, where you're able to use the 5G network to actually make your voice channels and shit to be able to do party? Like, is that hard for them to do after that, or am I bugging?
You with your party, yeah.
I don't think
Yo,
it's
it's
hard to do.
necessary.
I don't think it's hard to do. Just like I don't think doing a party chat right now is hard to do. It's just is this
Yeah.
their focus or not?
Also, because Nintendo is like has that app where it's like, you know, you're in a game and then it's like, okay, here's a code to use in the app on your phone to have a little party chat. But nobody uses the app, so like
all they need to
useless.
do to solve this problem, we've talked about this before, just put Discord on Switch. That's it.
Mhm.
Put Discord on Switch. It alleviates the issues of you having to do anything else. Just allow the Discord company to let Discord run in the background. Just be like, hey, we want you guys to be on Switch. I would guarantee you, if Nintendo went to Discord right now and was like, hey, we want to partner and put you guys on the Switch, they'd be like, yes, sign me up. Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Basically, the Switch isn't really that different from an Android phone, right? It's probably just a modified version of Android. So you would have to imagine that the Discord app already exists on Android. Just bring that on over to the Switch. Like,
Exactly.
So here's another question then too. Also, like, because I keep going back to the battery thing because it really kind of concerns me, just based on like how the current battery life works on the current Switch. Right now, when I use mine, if I don't charge it up, it's like, and I don't even have the brightness on max. I have the brightness maybe halfway, and I never usually use the volume. I might be able to get 4.5 hours out of it before it dies on me.
mhm.
So like, I'm just wondering, like, shit, what would it have to be, like a 5,000 milliamp, a 6,000 milliamp battery? Like, shit.
You also have to think about it this way, though, right? Like, so yeah, the milliamp hour battery life, like that stuff matters, but the newer chipsets are much better on battery life, right? Like, you know, we're pivoting more into tech talk now, but like, what's it, the Snapdragon 865? I think it
Wait,
is.
that's what it's getting?
No, not necessarily.
Oh,
But-
I was about to say what?
But I would imagine that it's something equivalent to that. Like they don't use Snapdragon, they use NVIDIA chips. So let's say that we were the equivalent of like NVIDIA's equivalent of like the Snapdragon. What is the latest one? Is it
888.
888? Let's say that one, right? That one, from what they're talking about, is supposed to improve battery life by double, right? So, you know, I think what'll end up happening really is that, you know, the 5G and all the extra things that they decide to push through these phones will probably make the battery life come out to just about the same place. But in the case of a Nintendo Switch, where it's solely focused on this one thing, doesn't have all these extra apps running in the background doing this, that, and the other, I think you can probably push a little bit better battery life out of that. If you can increase the battery life a little bit, because obviously, you know, like we said, the technology in the Nintendo Switch is very old. So if Nintendo actually pushes to make something that's a bit more bleeding edge, make sure that they get a more current chip from NVIDIA, actually pushes the boundaries of battery technology by, you know, actually trying to get newer lithium ion batteries and actually having something that's good as far as milliamps go. Like, I think you could really get a compelling product out of them, but it's just a matter of how far they want to push, right?
Yeah.
Is there any like renders, like, or there's no like leaks of like images or anything like that, right?
No leaks.
I would really. Oh, another thing. Sorry, I hate to keep adding on to this, but I have to mention this too because it's important. Fix y'all Joy-Cons. I don't know. It's bad, dude. It's really bad. I don't know what it is, but they all get drift. I've gone through a lot of them already, and I know many, 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 many people have experienced the same exact thing. It's annoying. I don't know why y'all stuff break down within like 5, 6 months every single time. Please, 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 please focus your engineering on making better Joy-Cons so that way we don't have to deal with that anymore. It's just it's one of the most frustrating things I think I can think of as like a gamer is just wait, why the hell is my like dude, it's oh my god, bro, it's mad annoying.
Yeah.
Mad. So please fix that. Like, and I asked about the render thing because I was like, I wonder how thin they're gonna make the bezels on the middle piece. I really want to see that.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out on what Nintendo decides to do. I really hope we do get something this year. As always, we'll keep hoping and wishing for Nintendo. They always get a little bit of tough love from us, but it's because we know they can do better. So. We'll just
Much better.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. But for now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with a fun little topic. All right, and we're back. So, obviously, we just got through talking about a little bit of the Nintendo Switch rumors. But we got a little bit of news this week in regards to Microsoft and Nintendo. A pretty interesting article came out from Bloomberg where they went ahead and talked to some of the original architects of the Xbox from Microsoft. So people like Bob McReen, who was the head of business development, Seamus Blackley, who was one of the original designers on the Xbox. And we got a little bit of juicy information that in the early stages, Microsoft was looking to shore up, IP and have games to release for consumers, and so they tried to buy Nintendo of all companies. Actually, not just Nintendo, but Nintendo, EA, and Square Enix. Crazy story. Really interesting article from Bloomberg. But before we even get any further into that, what do you guys think about that? Chris, how would you start off though?
No, go ahead, Goop. Goop, you seem like you had. Go ahead.
Oh, he's ready. He's ready.
Hey, but I was gonna say maybe if Xbox would have bought Nintendo, maybe Nintendo would have had their Xbox.
Exactly.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Took them right out of my mouth.
Better servers, because I know when I be playing Smash, that game be laggy.
Yeah, I think the prospect of Nintendo with good online, man, yeah, that could have been something special.
Oh, man, wow. Man, if Microsoft would have bought Nintendo, Metroid probably would be like a FPS shooter by now with like competitive ranking and all kinds of mess. Man, it would have been. I'd say it's ambitious. It's very ballsy, especially for them to like had been. What was the time frame again? They tried to do that when they first started.
Yeah, probably about around 2000 when they were first trying to develop the original Xbox.
That is ballsy. That is them. Because come on, you're trying to buy EA or what was the other company? I'm sorry.
Square
Enix.
Square Enix. Those are big companies, huge fucking companies. I'm never gonna shit on that. But for them to try to buy Nintendo as a whole, like dog, like that is ballsy.
I mean, but
at the same time,
I was gonna say we could have had Forza DLC with Mario Kart.
Oh god. I mean, honestly, I don't even know if those studios would have existed. Like it's like crazy to think, but like the butterfly effect of things, right? Like if they had Nintendo, would there be a Turn 10? Would there be there'd be Halo? We might have been in a whole different universe. But to the point you made, Chris, though, I don't know if it's that ballsy, right? Like if Microsoft wanted to, I mean, it doesn't really seem like Microsoft's been in the business of hostile takeovers within the last, 20 some odd years. But like you have to remember, it's still Microsoft we're talking about, right? Like they have the money. They could. It's not that ballsy to say like, hey, we'll give you a lot of cash if you give us Nintendo, right? Like this is pre-Wii, right? This is like they weren't like the height of
True,
Nintendo's
true.
success, like back then, they were successful from a mindshare standpoint, right? But they didn't have like money in the bank like Microsoft did and does. So it's not that like out of the realm of possibility that they could have purchased them, right? I think they didn't want to go down the hostile route. They wanted to, have it be something that made sense for their business and had everybody kind of come along. Um, and as the story goes, Nintendo kind of laughed them out of the room, but I don't know. It's interesting, right? Like it seems like what, at least at the time, what Steve Ballmer did or thought to do was to look at key opportunities like big franchise. Because if you think about it, right, back in 2000, EA was huge, right? Like, I mean, they still are huge, right? But
Yeah.
but they were definitely in a different place. They weren't as hated as they are now. They were and still are, like I said, considered like a titan of industry as far as third party game
Huh.
developers go. Square Enix, obviously, a titan of
I
industry
say
in
the
that
same
regard.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same thing.
like Final Fantasy was at its heights back then. So I think Microsoft was aiming very high for sure, but they had the money. That it seems like they were fully ready to put all their weight behind buying those buying those studios to do whatever it is they wanted to do with gaming.
So I guess the reason why I said ballsy is because like I kind of look at that move almost like it's almost akin to me like when Disney really started coming up and buying all these other things and they got hands on Lucasfilms and all that kind of good stuff and they almost really started snuffing them out. I just look at it from a standpoint of like I get that it wasn't the Wii and all that stuff, yeah, and that definitely makes a difference because that got it like to a whole nother level of popularity. But my goodness, for them to sit here and say we're just gonna try to buy Nintendo straight out, Zelda, all the properties, whatever, like we want the whole thing. Like that's why I said it was ballsy because it was just like, man, you guys just came in the game like, well, but we'll try to buy that too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I think it would have been
like,
met. It would have been met with a very similar. I would say maybe not necessarily price tag because I think it probably would have been a bit cheaper, but at least back in 2000. But you think about the Bethesda purchase, like that shook the industry, right? Like people, obviously we're still talking about it to this day because we haven't really seen the fruits of that labor yet. I would imagine that would have been what it would have been like back then if Nintendo had Microsoft had snatched up Nintendo. Like it would have been a megaton. It would have shook up the industry. I have no idea how to gauge like how much its value would have been, but I would be thinking more closer to like maybe $1 billion, something or somewhere around there. I don't know if Nintendo back then would have went for 7.5 billion, but it still would have been a good chunk of change, and it seems like it's change that Microsoft was really willing to spend. So,
yeah, man, that would
Imagine.
be insane.
Instead of Master Chief, they would have had Master Samus.
Imagine a world where like Chief and Samus were in the same game though, or something like that. Like,
they find the Covenant together. Oh, look at that!
Bro, I'm more concerned with the idea of like imagine like how they have the Smash universe, but then imagine that universe with the Nintendo characters and the Microsoft game characters in one fighting game. So then you got Master Chief 1v1 versus Samus. I know we just keep putting two people in suits against each other, but it's easy to do, guys. So
it makes sense. It makes sense. It's got to be understandable. But man, yeah, that's I can't wrap my brain around how that would look, how the whole gaming industry would have been shaped after that. Oh man, at least according to the article. And I'll actually just read it directly. So this is Bob McCreen. He said, "We actually had Nintendo in our building in January 2000 to work through the details of a joint venture where we gave them all the technical specs of the Xbox. The pitch was that their hardware stunk compared to the Sony PlayStation, and it did.
Yeah.
So the idea was, listen, you're much better at the games portion with Mario and all that. So why not let us take care of the hardware?" But of course, it didn't work out. Like that shit is breaking my brain, bro. Like it's so true though, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo's hardware, when you compare it to a modern PC, when you compare it to PlayStation, when you compare it to Xbox,
Compared to a phone.
when you compare it to a phone, yeah, I mean they've definitely their technical specs have been lacking for quite some time, right? But akin back to the GameCube. You know, they've been hurting in that department. So the idea that Microsoft could have come in and we could have had the power of the Xbox, the original Xbox, which was a freaking juggernaut as far as graphical power at the time, and then having Mario on there, having Metroid on there, having Zelda on there. Imagine if we had, bro. Oh man,
It had Zelda and Fable on the same console.
I like my brain like just is doing like backflips just thinking about this. But what?
Bro, if they had Zelda on Xbox, so Link will actually talk instead of making like,
Oh, you made my head say, "Come on."
Oh,
He
man.
said Link would actually talk. Yo, I'm dead.
Have some
But it's-
dialogue for once, bro. Nintendo was like,
Dudes
no
are
dialogue.
allergic to voice
You-
actors.
Yeah. Like a matured Link.
Bro.
Like
How many of y'all are tired of seeing like text scroll across the bottom of the screen when you play a Nintendo game, y'all? How many of y'all tired of that?
It's 2020.
right here.
Real talk.
Right here. Huh. All right. Well, I guess it leads me to my first question, you guys. So what do you think would have been the biggest IP for Microsoft to get out of that? Not just Nintendo, but if they were to purchase EA or Square Enix, or Nintendo, out of all three of those, what do you think would have been the biggest IP for Microsoft in particular? Manny, I'll let you start off.
You know, imagine if Microsoft handled Anthem.
Wait, what?
He said Anthem, yo.
Yo, you're awesome.
Nah,
dude.
let me stop.
Awesome.
But I mean, like EA has some like Mass Effect. We're talking about Dragon Age. Like, imagine those as being straight up Xbox exclusives, and like them holding like EA, like they also control like EA Sports, like the sports games, like strictly Xbox exclusive, like Madden and Madden. EA holds the rights for like a football simulation game, so PlayStation wouldn't be able to got a football simulation, and like that would have been huge in that kind of aspect. So I would say just those like games alone would be like a great grab for Microsoft itself.
I don't know if anybody remembers, but on the original Xbox, Microsoft used to make sports games, and they were bangers, bro. Like,
Bro, I remember NFL Fever, bro. That game was on the come up until EA was like, well, if you're gonna be making NFL Fever, Madden's gonna be exclusive for the PlayStation. And it's like money hungry hoes, you know what I'm saying?
So true. So true. Talk
But
to them, man.
but yeah, I think hearing things like that, you kind of understand that it kind of, I guess, it lets you understand Microsoft's mindset going into that venture of, obviously they want to try to get the best that they can get. But thinking about the fact that they tried to get EA, probably thinking about getting sports games along those lines, and then seeing them, obviously they weren't able to get EA, but then seeing them publish like first party football games on the original Xbox, like clearly they seemed like they had a plan. They had different bases that they wanted to cover with all of this. And I don't know, man. I think it's crazy to me to think that Microsoft could have owned Madden, could have owned FIFA, could have owned Mass Effect, could have owned Final
Dragon
Fantasy,
Age, all that.
Dragon Age, yeah. I mean, man. Chris, I'll let you go with your own pick before I get into my biggest IP for Microsoft.
Jeez Louise. I don't know who I think the biggest IP would be. So hard to say because At the time, if they would have got it, it might have been maybe either EA or Square Enix. Because again, even you said it before. At the time, those two were juggernauts, still juggernauts, but like there's other companies that have caught up, right? So it's like, oh man. But if
Just to
I'm
be clear
thinking
though,
like,
just to be clear though, from any of those companies, which IP do you think is the biggest? Not which company, which IP
right,
from any of those companies?
right. It would have to be the sports ones from EA, and I guess you could say, but even then, oh man, yeah, that's a hard one for me to answer. Because then there's also a part of me that wants to say, maybe even something like a Pokemon or something could have been a big acquisition for them, because that's still big. And then I think about in terms of long term wise, I think that probably would have been their best acquisition, because it, to me, out of all the other stuff, it probably still has a little bit of legs to squeeze out in terms of how much further they can go with it. But man, that's a tough question.
Imagine Pokemon on like what Microsoft handling it.
Dude, they would have forced it to be a real RPG by now. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about Pokemon. I think Pokemon might be an answer. I'm not gonna take that answer. I'm gonna go a different direction. But the idea of Microsoft owning Pokemon and doing the things that we talked about last week, right? Like, Nintendo kind of sits back, right? Like they don't seem to take too much control over over the Pokemon company and Game Freak and what they do with that stuff. But imagine Microsoft with the rights to the games. And from my understanding, Nintendo doesn't really own the rights to the Pokemon company in regards to what they do with the card games and the TV shows and all that jazz. But I would have to imagine that if Microsoft's going to go all in, they would probably try to accumulate that as well, right? So I could easily see Microsoft doing what they did with Minecraft with Pokemon, right? Making it ubiquitous and not keeping that as an exclusive, because Pokemon was just I feel like it's just too big for it to just be on Nintendo platforms. It's too big for it to just be on any one platform, right? So you give it to the people, you let it just kind of breathe, and you hone it and make it a better RPG, and literally, yeah, like I said, make it what Minecraft is. I think that would be crazy. But my pick, I say my pick for their biggest IP would have to be Final Fantasy, solely for the fact that you're not only just owning the games, right? Obviously, you own the video game rights, but then the movie rights, the TV rights, like some of those. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't remember what it was called, but they made a movie, like an animated movie.
You're talking about Advent Child or something like that?
Yes, Advent Children, I think it was called.
Or something like that, yeah.
Bro, that shit was fire.
I remember it.
Fire.
It had everybody in school talking, bro.
Yeah, that movie was so dope. Like, imagine Microsoft with the foresight to say, okay, this is an IP. This is like a thing that we can really latch onto and like push it even further. Obviously, there's a lot to be said about the games, right? I know, we all we all seem to be a bit down or on the games. They don't necessarily make a lot of sense anymore. And personally, I don't feel like they've aged that well. I would have to imagine that Microsoft would have taken some steps to remedy that a little bit, but part of me feels like they might have been more hands off. I think the biggest boon for Microsoft with obtaining Square Enix and the Final Fantasy IP would just be that they would have a stronger presence in Asia, and that's something that they're struggling with to this day. Like, they definitely don't sell very well in Japan, and it's something that Phil Spencer's been on record as saying that he wants to change. Right, he's trying to get more Japanese studios on board. He's trying to acquire some Japanese studios and get more games, that tailored to that audience, like Lost Odyssey and some of the things that they've done in the past. But Square Enix, that's an immediate into that market. Final Fantasy is an immediate into that market, right? And of course, it's so wide ranging that everybody at some point in their life has touched or played a Final Fantasy game, and there's a lot of love for that that franchise. So I think that would probably be my pick for their biggest IP. I would love to see what they would have done with it. That would have been so cool.
So, all right, I got a question for y'all then, though, because that really just brought up a really interesting thing in my head. In today's era, like in 2021, just turned 2021, brand new year, right? And like, obviously, Microsoft probably can't acquire Nintendo right now if they wanted to. They didn't be able to do it before. I don't know about EA, but there's a big part of me that feels like if they went out today and tried to get Square Enix, they might be able to pull it off. Do you guys still think that it has the same potential if they were to try again in like current time?
Right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even with Final Fantasy Online being a thing, because that's still pretty big for a lot of folks. That's probably the one thing over the last few years that most people kind of don't say is trash.
I just don't see it happening because, like, as much as like, you know, you say like the Final Fantasy is a big game. Like, I think like Final Fantasy is more bigger on the PlayStation side, and then like it would be kind of like a loss to Square Enix, essentially, even though they're being bought by Microsoft. Like, they would lose that, you know, that whatever, like the region, like Japan, like I don't even know, I can't think of the word, but like they would just like essentially be losing like a big market, I guess you could say, if they like were to like make sound like Final Fantasy like exclusive to Xbox, because like
I think the argument that you're making would be more reason for Microsoft to do that.
I mean,
if it,
but
really it doesn't.
You're taking a big chance, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're taking a risk.
I mean, first off, I disagree with the statement about Final Fantasy being a PlayStation like focused thing. I mean, yeah, like a lot of people had played Final Fantasy back on PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII is definitely synonymous with the PlayStation, and that's the one that people seem to love the most. But even if that was true, and it was mainly a thing that PlayStation players played, it would be more advantageous to Microsoft for them to like go get that audience, right? Like, it's not about Square Enix. Like, it doesn't, like, Square Enix doesn't care about that side of things, right? They're getting their money from Microsoft, and that's really all that matters. Like, they don't have to be concerned about, oh, are we gonna like, that's the beauty of Microsoft purchasing a lot of these studios that you see them purchasing, is it alleviates the pressure from developers to have to say, okay, like, how are we going to market this game? How are we going to make money to be able to make our next game? How are we going to keep these developers employed, so on and so forth? Microsoft's such a big company that, you know, and this won't happen, but they can continue to take a loss on some of these studios that they've purchased and be just fine, right? Like, they're buying these studios up really so that they have content for Game Pass. Game Pass is its own engine that they're just trying to continue to fuel, and it's going to keep cranking out money, and that money is going to keep feeding the content. So I don't think that really matters as far as Square Enix is concerned. If anything, like I said, everything that you brought up is exactly why Square Enix should go with Microsoft, and exactly why Microsoft should go with Square Enix. Like, if you're Microsoft, I mean, right now you're in second place. There's no other way to put it, right? Sony's killing it out there. People, you know, they think about Sony, they think about their exclusive games, so on and so forth. So if you know that PlayStation, a brand that, you know, has a lot of weight still, even though it's been diminished a bit over the years, if you know that people think PlayStation when they think when they think Final Fantasy, they like associate it with PlayStation, it would make sense for you to go grab Final Fantasy, so that way it's only on your platform, and then the people who are on PlayStation would then go to Xbox.
I guess you're right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Literally, it's the same thing as like it's kind of scummy in a sense, right? Because it literally is you taking something that you know consumers want and you hiding it in one corner and pretty much saying, if you want it, you have to come get it this way now. And a lot of them probably would be mad about having to make the switch or having to get their hands on a Xbox just to play Final Fantasy. However, all I'll say to that is I hope y'all don't think that we like to have to try to get a PlayStation or whatever to play God of War and all this other stuff. So it evens itself out. Whatever. Ain't no big thing.
Yeah.
I think it would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Would have been crazy.
It definitely would have been wild. Okay, so yeah, moving on to the next thing then. Out of all three of those companies, again, Nintendo, EA, and Square Enix, which company do you think would have been hurt the most by that acquisition?
I'll say Sony. I mean, if Microsoft would acquire Nintendo, and like we've been talking about it, of course, like if they would have acquired Nintendo, like that Japan market, like would have just went straight to Microsoft, get the Xbox to play their Nintendo games or whatever, and like boom, you know what I'm saying? Like that would have then like created more console sales for Xbox, and just, there you go, they're ahead of the race. Like I feel like just having Nintendo itself, we've seen how successful the Switch was with the console sales, and how much it skyrocketed and all that kind of stuff just because of the name of Nintendo. Like everybody just loves Nintendo, and like I feel like
so real quick, I absolutely agree with you. Sony clearly would have been the one that's hurt the most by this. But the question is more specifically, out of Nintendo, EA, and Square Enix, which company would have been hurt the most by this acquisition?
Who would have hurt it the most? Oh, okay. That changes the question. Well, I don't know.
I'll let you dwell on it a little bit.
Yeah,
we'll come back to you.
I had the wrong idea.
It's all good. Chris, what about you, man? What do you think?
When you, we have to define this for a second. So, like, when you say hurt the most, you mean as in like the brand itself just like diminishing, or do you mean hurt the most in terms of like money? Do you
stunted their growth?
Okay. It probably would have been EA, maybe, I guess, because like EA, if they would have got Nintendo, it would have been nothing but beneficial for Nintendo. So I can't say them. If they would have got Square Enix, I think it would have been beneficial for them too in a lot of ways. I gotta go with EA in terms of I think I would have to say EA. EA to me right now, out of all of those companies, they don't hit the hardest, I think, out of all of them anymore. Like EA still exists, don't get it wrong, and like we said a million times, it's still a big company. But like, what's the biggest game on EA's platform besides a sports game right now?
Right now, Apex.
Never mind. I didn't even think.
But
about
to be clear, everything that you just said, it sounds like would be the opposite, right? Like, so again, to clarify, the question is, which company out of the three would have been hurt the most by being acquired by Microsoft, right? So based off of what you're saying, if you don't think that EA is hitting the hardest, then wouldn't they benefit from being acquired?
I mean, yeah, but then technically you could say that about all three. So then it's kind of hard to. All right, so if we just look at it from a different standpoint, all three of these would benefit from getting acquired from Microsoft. It's hard to say which one would stop growth, because I could even see something like Microsoft buying all three of these ones and then not all three of them existing in the way that they do. Like you have certain IPs disappearing so that way they can take ideas and put them into other ones. I could see them doing a lot of that. Or like even with Square Enix specifically, dead ass, dude, I could see them using them strictly for mostly even graphical work. You know, like how they have like with Destiny back in D2 when it first started and they still had the Activision thing or whatever, they still had this other third-party company called Vicarious Visions or some shit like that.
Yep.
And they would hire them to come in and help them do like a lot of the rendering and stuff for different parts of the game. And I feel like Square Enix would be amazing at that kind of stuff as well, because to me, that's what really kind of held up the Final Fantasy games back then. Yeah, they were fun to play, but the graphics were always beautiful. I have yet to see a Square Enix game that's not pretty. You know what I mean? So I feel like even in that sense, they could have shifted some people this way. It's hard to say who would have, like, I don't think anybody would have failed. I don't think they would have like had to fire the folks that they hired. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that would have happened. With any of them. So
I'll say this: I don't think that any of these companies would have been like shuttered necessarily. So I'll give my answer, and maybe I don't know. Maybe when I explain it, you might understand where I'm coming from. You might change your opinion. I don't know, but I think the company that would have been hurt the most by being acquired by Microsoft is Nintendo, solely because again, we've talked about what Nintendo was at that time, and we talk about what Nintendo is now. If Nintendo was acquired by Microsoft, they would have never made the Wii, right? They would have never made the Switch, right? Like the Wii and the Switch is what puts them in this other like obviously again, we know that they were a juggernaut as far as the games industry goes, but now they're a juggernaut as far as the tech industry goes. And the tech industry is much bigger than the games industry, right? We can all agree on that.
Mhm.
So when we're sitting here talking about the fact that Nintendo's been printing money since the Wii, since the Switch, like we can all talk about our like what we think about Nintendo collectively from a game standpoint and all that jazz. But when we're talking really about money and lining the CEO's pockets and all that different type of stuff, and expanding their brand name, for a household standpoint, I think Nintendo is the biggest out of all three of these, right? If we look at what all three of these are doing right now, EA, I still think is a big company, but they're still considered like the most hated company in the gaming industry. Square Enix hasn't done anything of true relevance, in my opinion. The last big thing that they did was release that Avengers game, which flopped heavily. So the out of these three companies, the only company that's thriving right now is Nintendo.
Yeah.
For all their shortcomings. So I think they easily would have been the one that would have been hurt the most by this acquisition. And the flip side of that, I think the company that would have benefited the most from this acquisition would have been EA. I think that they have so many IPs, so many different things that they can, offer Microsoft. I think Microsoft would have been able to shape and mold that company in such a way that they would have continued to thrive. Not that they're not doing well right now, but they're bolstered by a handful of franchises, and I don't think they would have went through these crazy rough patches of loot boxes and all these different, all the controversies that you saw going around with EA. I think Microsoft would have been able to better handle all of those things and still allow EA to shine, right? We still would have gotten, you know, in theory, we would have gotten our Mass Effects. Manny joked about it, but we probably would have gotten an Anthem that would have been a lot better because it would have went through Microsoft's Q&A, and they would have seen that this game isn't necessarily as flushed out. And I don't want to give Microsoft too much credit because back then, I don't think that they're the same company that they are now. They weren't necessarily as consumer facing. They weren't as consumer friendly as they are now. But I still don't think that these companies like EA and Square Enix would have taken the nosedive that they've taken under Microsoft's helm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get where you're coming from with your answer. I think I still stand by my answer. Maybe I just didn't word it the right way, but like I kind of, yeah, no, it's hard for me to. All right, so I honestly don't even think Nintendo would have still been a thing if they would have gotten acquired uh by Microsoft. I honestly think it would have kind of dissolved into something where like everything Nintendo is would have been absorbed into the Microsoft umbrella, and we would have saw them take over a lot of their tech and stuff like they wanted to do. And maybe hey, they take some of the handheld stuff that they do and they try to like make a Microsoft handheld that they take some of the ideas from what Nintendo was currently doing or something like that. But I can't see that they. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question for me to answer in entirety, but I really think that Nintendo would have dissolved under Microsoft and it would have used a lot of their people to use different things and they would have opened some other doors that maybe they didn't touch yet.
I can see the idea of them phasing certain parts of their business into Microsoft, but I don't know. I don't think they would get rid of Nintendo, right? Like that brand itself held, that meant something back then. Like, and again, I'm not, it's very hard to make this equivalency because they're not on the same level. But
Yeah.
when you think about Nintendo, there's like this level of nostalgia in your heart, right? That's like Disney, right? Like you're not going to get rid of the name Disney. And then even if we want to make the parallel, right? And Disney went ahead and bought Star Wars, they went ahead and bought Marvel. Like they didn't. It's under the Disney umbrella, but they still use the branding of Star Wars. They still use the branding of Marvel. Like they're its own thing. You don't think that that's the route that Microsoft would have taken?
I think they could have, and I think it could have been successful if they would have taken that route. But there's a part of me that really also can easily see them still going the route that I said about too, just because, especially when I think of the handheld thing, I really think that Microsoft would have gotten their hands on that and they would have at least came out with something that would have tried to rival against like the PS Vita or whatever the old PlayStation handhelds were back then or whatever. I think they would have tried something. Like I don't know. I feel like it would have been different. And yeah, no. I'm 50-50, man. I don't know. I feel what you're saying, but then I don't know, man. I kind of feel like they could have did it the other way too.
Yeah, it's that's what makes this topic so interesting, though, right? Like, there's so many, like the what ifs is crazy, right? Because the possibilities are virtually endless. Like, it would have been amazing to see one way or another. Like, you know, I kind of want to like jump into a parallel universe where like we know what happens.
Like, what if Microsoft had them and they like decided to stop trying to make all these new names for their handhelds, and the next thing that got released was called a Microsoft Nintendo? That would be like crazy. That would be crazy.
Microsoft Nintendo.
What is a Nintendo?
The world may never know.
Oh wow, yeah, no, that's crazy.
But, yeah, I mean, like, it's just hard because like Microsoft, especially with the direction going now, like they'll all definitely benefit. I mean, the only time I can see anybody having to get hurt was when Xbox did their entertainment route when they released the Xbox One. I mean, I see like that being like them hurting the company because, you know, when the PlayStation 4 like outsold the Xbox like crazy. So like with the exclusive side of the games, that definitely would have hurt their revenue and could have caused like them to have to like disband teams and this, that, and the third just to like save money. And we probably would have never gotten games like, you know, Apex nowadays where just like games like Apex and stuff like that. Even though Respawn was like one of the Xbox exclusives that they came out with the Xbox One.
Yeah, Titanfall. Okay. So,
oh man, I just had another question, but I don't even think I should ask this. This is I'm gonna save this for another week. Yeah.
Oh man, come on.
Week. It's gonna make the pod go for like at least another half hour. I'm gonna save it, bro.
Okay.
I'm gonna save it.
We'll table it. We'll table it for next time. All right.
I'm gonna write it down.
I got one more question. You know, we'll make this a relatively quick one, but you know, something that I also, you know, you viewers and listeners, you know, I definitely want you guys to comment and let me know what you guys think about this one. But are there any dream acquisitions that you can think of today for any company? So, so an example that I posed was earlier in the episode, we talked about Bloober Team. We talked about the Medium and how we love that game and how it really gave us a lot of Silent Hill vibes. So, you know, this isn't exactly the one I'm going with, but an example would be, you know, you'd want to see Konami pick up Bloober Team to make the next Silent Hill. You know, what kind of acquisitions in that vein would you guys want to see? So, Manny, I'll let you start off.
You know, that's kind of tough because, like, what kind of acquisition? You know, I kind of wish, you know, and this probably like, you know, cheesy answer, but that the sports industry, you know what I'm saying? They, instead of working against each other, imagine them working together, you know, 2K working on like a football game. I would love to see a simulation of like a football game.
So
that is not from.
So you want to see EA buy Take-Two? Is that what you're saying?
I want Take-Two to buy EA.
I would rather them be like on some COD shit, man.
Take-Two got money, you know what I'm saying?
Switch to studios every year. Why not?
You know what I'm saying? I like, you know, like that idea is actually a good idea. You know, 2 studios working on the sports games instead of 1. And then like, I don't know, like we just Madden hasn't hit. So like
I feel like you want to see 2K work on a Madden game. Or like Chris said, kind of
like $50 on VC just to get my my player in 80 over.
my football player. Okay. All right. So okay, so Manny's going with either Take-Two buying EA or EA buying Take-Two. And either way, you want the 2 sports studios to work together. So I hear that. Chris.
For me, this is gonna sound stupid, but I don't care. This is my answer. I want Microsoft to acquire Sega because I want Microsoft to revive Power Stone and bring it back for.
That's Capcom.
Is it? I'm so off. Oh no, you're right. You were so right. Damn. Never mind. I gotta think of something different. Oh man, how did I mess that up? Golly.
There is that rumor that Microsoft was looking to buy Sega though, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any franchise out of that I would like want to see. Like I love Sonic, don't get me wrong, but like I don't know if that makes sense for Microsoft to go buy Sonic.
Like,
yeah, I really just want to see Power Stone come back. I love that game, and I don't know why nobody bought it and tried to bring it back yet. I really want that to come back.
I feel you.
All
right, well, I can let that one stew. Let me see. What can I come up with here? It's crazy because this is gonna tie to something I said the other week. But who's the company that makes oh man. I'm gonna kick myself when I realize this. Who's the company that makes Fall Guys?
Oh shit, what's the name?
Mediatonic. I want Microsoft to buy Mediatonic and make me a Fusion Frenzy today. I need me a new Fusion Frenzy. We've already talked about this, but yeah. Mediatonic, the guys who make Fall Guys, they freaking killed it this year with that game. As we talked about before, battle royale party game, essentially, kind of changing the way we think about battle royale. I want them to make us a Fusion.
All right. Now that I have thought for quite some time, this is kind of a two-part answer. I kind of wish that Microsoft would go out and somehow acquire the Telltale Games people. I don't even really know what happened there because I know there was some kind of controversy and they ended up like having to stop making the games or something. But I wish they would somehow get a hold of them and somehow get a hold of like Quantic Dream. Because I would love it if those games were in Game Pass, man. If I could get Heavy Rain in Game Pass, I would be, you know what I mean? That'd be so nice. I'd love to be able to play that on there. Yeah, those are my two answers for sure.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Well, once again, guys, like I said, let us know what you think down in the comments. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. We're gonna head out of here today. But of course, Manny, let the people know where they can find you.
How do I stop? Of course.
It's free, y'all. It's free.
Got twitch.tv/GOOP. All right, I'm not going to do that. But twitch.tv/GoMasterFlex. And then Instagram, GoMasterFlex_TTV. Twitter, GoMasterFlex. Hit me up if you got any questions, want to say something, let me know. We can argue all day.
All right. Chris.
Y'all already know, man. Same thing on everything. MAY25THX on everything. All right now.
All right. And of course, I am Black Ice 8, literally everywhere. Xbox, PlayStation, Twitter, Steam, Oculus. Doesn't matter. Come find me. Black Ice 8. Of course, the only other place it's a little different is on Instagram. It's Black Ice 8_gaming. Make sure to check us out. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.
Hiya.